Greetings. Let's talk about the expat remittance tax that was just recently passed. That came from the One Big Beautiful Bill, and President Trump signed it into law on July 4th. There seems to be a lot of misinformation floating around on Facebook and being put out by various YouTube influencers. So I wanted to do some research and set the record straight. So let's go ahead and get into it. If you're new to the channel, my name is Troy and welcome to Silver Fox in Mexico. I'm going to do a walk and talk, so let's just get right on to it. Today I'm shooting from the colonia of Chapultepec Norte in Morelia, Mexico. But let's get right into what is a remittance tax. The remittance is when you transfer money from the United States to another recipient in another country. And what happened was there was a lot of proposals out there. Many of the influencers don't understand the nature of how legislative process works. For example, in the House of Representatives, the bill started out with a 5% tax, and it got lowered to 3.5%. And then when it finally went to the Senate version was 1%, and that is the current amount. It's a 1% tax on remittance. Sorry, got to get out of the way. So what exactly is the tax? Who qualifies for the tax? Who's exempt from the tax? So the people that have to pay the tax, it's going to be anyone who uses cash transfers. That means physical hard cash like dollars. It means a money order from, say, the US Post Office. It means cashier's checks. And so what's going to happen, I'll give you an example. If there is a Mexican national living in Texas and he's working on a ranch and he gets paid under the table, he would go take his cash to a place like Western Union and he would send that money to his relatives, say in Morelia. So now what's going to happen effective January 1st, when he takes that cash to the Western Union, he will have to pay a 1% fee on that money, and Western Union will be responsible for collecting it, submitting the money to the US government, and collect certain data that needs to be on there. Now let's get to the important part. Who is exempt from this tax? Well, if you're sending money from a US financial institution that's backed by the Big Secrecy Act, you are exempt. For example, if I send money from my Charles Schwab account to my Mexican bank account, I pay no tax. Other things that are exempt, if you're using a US-based debit card or credit card to fund that transaction, that is also exempt. If you use a electronic transfer to another electronic transfer, that is also exempt. So, for example, if I needed to send somebody money in Mexico, I could send my money from my PayPal account that is tied to a US credit card. PayPal will pull the money from the credit card and they can deposit that money into a local Mexican bank. So it's an institution to institution transfer. Now, obviously, if you're an unbanked person in the United States, whether it's in Mexico, from Mexico or from India, this is going to put a slight damper on the amount of money that you can send. It's going to be a reduction of 1%. You know, the intention of the law, from my understanding, is to get people to be banked or to prevent people that are not using the correct system, i.e. the financial networks in the United States, and they think a lot of this is money laundering. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But they are going after these types of transactions. As far as I could tell, I couldn't find any scenario in which I would actually be required to pay the 1% tax. I imagine most foreigners, specifically Americans that are living in Mexico, you probably have a bank account in the United States, and so you're probably sending it from one account to another, or you're using your U.S. bank debit card to go and withdraw cash. That's going to be exempt. So as you can see, there really isn't anybody that's probably going to have to pay this tax that's an American citizen, as long as you're banking correctly. You know, I know there were a lot of talks, especially on YouTube, when this first got proposed and everybody was screaming bloody murder about the Trump administration was trying to tax you to death and take your money, and you know, clearly didn't understand the legislative process. House first, then Senate, then back to the House, then finally for the president to sign. That's why I never broached the subject before, because I was like, this is going to change from whatever they're actually talking about. If you have any questions about the remittance, I'm going to leave the sources that I found. I checked ChatGPT just for kicks, and it gave a brief summary, but I also found a brief from a U.S. law firm and another company that specializes in visas, and I'll leave those links down below. If you have any suggestions for future videos, please leave them in the comments. I would love to see it. I'm working on a couple of requests as we speak, and hopefully have them done by this weekend to publish next week. And one of them was, someone asked me to not show my face as much, that they really wanted to see what the places I win, you know, such as Morelia, what it looked like. And right here you can see off to the right is the very, very start of the aqueduct here in Morelia. And here is OXXO, which is like Mexico's 7-Eleven. It's owned by a corporation called FEMSA, which is the Coca-Cola bottling company here in Mexico. But anyway, I'm going to wrap up this video. The purpose was to let you know that you're probably not going to have to pay the remittance tax, and the people that were publishing it were trying to scare you for views, and that's not how I work. So right there you can see that's a military installation. I believe it's an infantry unit here located just on the other side of Chapultepec Norte. And that's one of the main reasons I like this area. There's not a lot of crime over here because the Army's got a base here. All right, I'll catch you later. And I hope you enjoyed this video. If you got something of it, I would love for you to share it or give it a thumbs up. And if you have some critique, please leave comments in the bottom. I'm always trying to make my videos better. Have a great day. Hasta luego.